Today I have Jayne on the podcast, and we're going to be here talking about alive living.
And it's your first podcast, right?
First
Congratulations.
Podcast.
It's such a big triumph.
And my first episode, and Jayne is the founder of Aspen Shakti, a yoga studio in Aspen, Colorado, and The Body Practice, a series of movement classes specifically designed to help one pass through the hero's journey, and alive living online, all sorts of really good stuff. So we're gonna get
It's the endless hero's journey, what I am founding.
So yeah, what is alive living? What does that mean to you? When I say that on the podcast, what does that mean to you, alive living?
Well, I can give two definitions. One, I think you being so familiar with my work, you're going to know, and the other might surprise you. The first one is simple. It's like, I call it full spectrum living. It is really living in a way that you do not miss a moment of your life, so that you don't go unconscious or to an old pattern necessarily, or, into a fantasy when you're living in a moment. So you can really be fully available to each of the moments in all of the scenes of the movie of your life, if that makes sense. And to me, that makes sense, especially following this hero's journey, but I'll define it too, like a little bit more granularly. Fully alive living is fully present living. And the way that I'm working with it so that we can all understand it is it really means being in the movie, creating the movie, and watching the movie all at the same time. So having 3 seats of awareness in any given moment, so that, for example, if you're in the movie, you're the character, you're the one who can feel the passion of a kiss, or the grief of a loss, or the joy and triumph of a child winning something, and you're sucked in and you can feel the emotion of the character because you are the character. And at the same moment, you're also present enough to be creating the next moment and present with what you're saying to create the scene to move in a certain way, or the journey. And then at the same point, being able to watch it with the seat of awareness, spirit. So it's kind of like being in body, mind, and spirit all at the same time. Fully alive living.
I love that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I know that I found your methodologies and ways of doing things through a class called The Body Alive. And we can go into what is The Body Alive and what type of class is that, what its intentions are, but what are the ways in which people can access alive living? If it's something new to them, they don't already have a practice, they're not already dialed into their own journey, and they're just maybe getting their feet wet, or they're curious to wake up every morning, feel more radiant, feel more alive, feel more presence. What are some ways people could access that?
What a great question. I mean, the first thing I would say is I call it leaning back into your spine. It's all of a sudden holding the perspective and the mindset that that both things are unfolding always for you and not to you, for your richest experience of life. And so when we operate from that perspective, we can lean back into our spine, I call it, a little bit more easily, and accept what's in front of us. And so I think that would be maybe the first tool I would say is to see if you can find, without any practice, but like, okay, what does it feel like to be in this moment? What would I create from here, and what would my higher self, how would she or he move this scene for my deepest evolution? And I think that's a big piece of the fully alive living. When I say deepest evolution, I more mean so I can not miss a moment. I can get the most out of this experience, this human experience, because it's only so long. I've done the math. If we live till we're like 90, it's like we might get, I think, like close to 35,000 days, like 35,000 days. And there was a time. It's like nothing. There was a time I was like, I thought I had 1,000,000 days. Yeah. But I can get my head wrapped around 35,000, and then I can realize the importance of each day. And so, the easiest practice, just back to the question you asked me of how to live a life that is fully alive. One, to value it, to recognize you're doing it, to relax back into what you've already created, attracted, all the things, good and bad, as we label them, and how each of those ingredients are the exact things that may have needed to happen to get you to this place. And then when you can start there, I really feel like the conscious hero's journey, or 25 more hero's journeys, or 30 or 100, begins.
And what is the hero's journey for people who are unfamiliar with Joseph Campbell's work, and how does it applicable to the different methodologies that you've created in your practice for alive living, for the body practice, for the classes at the yoga studio? What is the hero's journey?
Well, I'll explain it, and first I'll let you know how I found it. It was fun. I mean, I have a theatrical background. I have a theatrical orientation to life. Just in general, I loved, most cultures, many of us love to tell stories. And so, and actually I found the hero's journey. I started to really dive into the work in about 2014, so about 10 years ago, a little bit before, about 10 years ago, when it was my first plant medicine journey. And there was this, the sharing of like the slaying the dragons in a plant medicine ceremony, the things that we think we're afraid of in order to step into a more free, love-filled, maybe more fully alive reality, sort of some of the point of plant medicine, I think, to recognize the dragons that we are up against maybe aren't as big as we've made them to be, and their fire's not as hot. So anyway, it relates in that way that Joseph Campbell, great philosopher, he has a philosophy that states that, each of our lives can be told through story, and we can learn from each other as the hero of each of our journeys. And he realized that every culture through hundreds of years, all kinds of traditions and all kinds of different languages and cross-culturally, every single culture was using the journey of the hero, that I'll explain in just a second, to bring them together, to make sense of a life. And so that really fascinated me, just for a lot of reasons. But the hero's journey itself is kind of this process that we all go through, sometimes very acutely within a day, or an intention, sometimes within a month, sometimes within a year, sometimes within a decade, a whole lifetime. There's a lot of mini hero's journeys within a grander lifetime journey. I kind of relate to it as there's a lot of scenes in the greater movie of our life. And, each of us as humans, we're here to discover our fullness and more of ourselves than we were yesterday. Right? And that probably relates, hopefully, to the listeners. But we're constantly on a journey of self-discovery. And I would imagine that really resonates with the parts of ourselves too, right? But so one day you kind of wake up, or you're in bed, hypothetically, and you just get this itch to be like, I'm so-and-so, but what about this aspect of myself? And you kind of get this uncomfortable, like Joseph Campbell calls it, heeding the call. This just scratch of like, there's something more out there, and so the hero usually goes on this path where they sort of like, they hear the call, they don't really want to heed it because it requires stepping into the mystery and the unknown. So they take a minute in resistance. Finally, they get the strength and the courage, and the voice is so loud that they must heed the call. And they begin on this journey that they develop momentum, and the wind starts to be at their back. They start to recognize some of the enemies in their own mind frame, and also true enemies in their life that are holding them back and keeping them in the known versus soaring into the unknown. They kind of identify the new allies that they have in their life that are encouraging them to take a chance, step into the unknown. We all can probably relate to this. And as you go on the path, you kind of build this strength in your nervous system and this confidence, and you begin to like slay the dragons of your mind that tell you can't do it or that want to keep you comfortable. And then you get to this moment, this triumph moment, where you are stepping across a threshold that you've never been able to step across before. And if you look into movies, you know, we watch movies and there's always a moment of like, you know, that we could self-identify with the main character becoming someone different than they were before. And then the latter part of the journey is recognizing that, sort of becoming acquainted with the new you, and then integrating back into the ordinary world, the old world, as the new you, and seeing if you can, you know, not seeing if, but finding harmony there. And that's sort of a completion of the whole hero's journey path, until you do it again with the skills that you just, and the new tools that you just collected on the last journey.
Yeah, I love that. And what are some of the tools that you've collected along the way that have helped you step into each new version of yourself, each new chapter? And just knowing you for the last 5+ years, there's been some major transitions in your business and your personal life and all sorts of things. And that's just a little blip of time of your life, right? And
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, what are some of the tools you've acquired over your 40+ years of living on this earth that you could, as a hope merchant, like offer to people? What are resources that you found that worked for you that you share with people, both through your practice, through your studio, and in your own day-to-day life, that could maybe inspire somebody else?
Yeah, well, first, just thank you again. It's an honor to be considered a hope merchant. That's such an honorable hat. Thank you. You know, the first one that comes to mind is not taking myself or my thoughts so seriously, and really learning to get over myself and the things that I think are true, really questioning my thoughts and deciding. And that's where that beautiful spot, you know, of my fully alive living definition, the seat of the observer, is so important, because you get to look with a wisdom eyes back on life and be like, is that even true? And who am I when I believe that's true? And who am I when I don't believe that's true? And moving from that intentional place instead of just on autopilot. Right. So I would say that maybe one of my biggest tools I've collected is, I'll repeat, not taking myself so seriously, and questioning what is true, really acutely getting in front of and in between my thoughts, and trying to understand the workings of my mind. Self-inquiry has been a huge piece. A tool along the way to help me with that certainly has been meditation and stillness. And it is colleagues and good friends, because I have the most extraordinary friends and sisters. I really do. But I find my space and my truth and my wind at my back alone, for sure. And it's taking time to do it. Taking time, and I've worked with like I might be getting off subject here, but like my own inner guidance to create an itinerary and an agenda for me to work through and to write. And you know, it's back to that trusting that we've already got the tools inside. To me it's creating time and space to really accompany yourself on a journey you're going on into the unknown, whether you like it or not. Yeah. And to really pack your bag.
I think that's the hardest thing for people, is to create the time and
space.
And
Me too.
To value that as being an important part of stepping into this discomfort, this unknown that is required for growth and self-development. Yeah,
and it's not only required for growth, it is required for growth, but it is the only place that new possibilities lie. It is the only place that new possibilities lie. You know, I often say nothing changes if nothing changes. And I say that because I say it to myself. It's so easy. I love my routine. I have an incredible life. And when I wake up and my life looks the exact same way it did, you know, a year ago, and it doesn't. Or it's looking like it may look the exact same way next year at this time, that's a really scary place for me. So yeah, self-inquiry, however that looks. And, you know, I do that on my yoga mat. I do that in nature. I do that in Body Alive. I do that in meditation. I do that in journaling. I do that before bed when I really try and identify, as you know, what I'm grateful for, because I want to see it tomorrow.
Yeah, I love that. If you could share with people that little flip of wisdom.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite practices. And I do this at nighttime, but you could do it anytime. But somebody gifted me just the perspective on actually a Joe Dispenza retreat. He was like, what if you woke up tomorrow, Jayne, and all you had in your life was what you said you were grateful for today? Or he even scared me more. He was like, what if you woke up today and all you had is what you said you were grateful for yesterday? And at the time, while I live in gratitude, I did not name what I was grateful for. And what was so beautiful is it's so simple. Like the things I actually wanted to wake up with, or it's a few things. It's not that much. And so that practice has really helped bring me confidence and strength that I have what I need to walk the path of the unknown, and that I'm getting somewhere, wherever somewhere is.
Yeah, and I love that practice because I have adopted that practice from the summer, and it's one of the things I wanted to share on here because I do think it's been really helpful in my journey as well, where if I could just take 30 seconds a day to just write down a few things I'm grateful for, it's just such a quick way to bring me into presence, into gratitude, awareness of what I've been given in this life. And it really changes the whole scope of my day and the way that I walk through my day-to-day practice. And I feel different on the days that I forget to do that little quick inquiry. And so, yeah, hopefully other people will want to adopt that practice if it's not already part of their day-to-day life. But one of the other things you mentioned was that, and aside from your own internal self-inquiry, that you have colleagues and people in your life that have helped propel you on this path. And I know that's an important part of the hero's journey, of that when you do have that heed the call moment, that often we have that resistance, and if we're blessed to see it, we will have people on the path that all of a sudden show up serendipitously or in all of the ways to help push us into that next step and be there as mentors and colleagues. And I wanted to speak to that, first of all, because I think of you as one of my mentors who has shifted my whole life in a million ways, and one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on here. But
thank you.
But I think it's really important, if I reflect on the people in my life, I can think of hundreds of people throughout my life that have been so blessed, that have just come on my path to push me in that next direction I needed to go to. And I'm just curious to know who your mentors are. Who were the people who pushed you? When were there people that stepped in when you needed them most?
That's such a great question. I mean, the first one that comes to mind isn't so much a human, it's nature. Nature to me is just such a place where there's so much wisdom, and there's so much space and allowance and permission for me to be exactly where I'm at. Which, when I'm needing it most is really uncomfortable, right? I'm just like, I'm at that phase of really resisting the transformation. And so just knowing I'm okay, nature has been a big piece of that. Who else? Recently, there's been some podcasts that have really just, John Wineland was a really big one for me. Just the way that he shared about what's possible in masculine and feminine dynamics, it made me believe in something bigger than I was experiencing. And so that he was a big voice that I needed to hear at the time.
What was, could you dive into that a little bit? What exactly did you uncover in that podcast?
In that podcast, I might not be able to pin it at the moment. I'll probably be able to remember as I get there. But conceptually, it's kind of the idea that 1 + 1 can equal 11, which I'm so committed to. The idea that this person in my life that I relate to very specifically, that I have a sexual relationship with on some level, like intimacy, that they can help, that the container is safe enough that I can begin to discover parts of myself in their presence that only that person could help me bring out.
Best part of relationships.
Yeah, for me it is. For me, I'm really growth oriented within relationships.
Same, yeah. Scary for probably a lot of other people.
Yeah, and just maybe not the flavor they're looking for. I think there's a lot of people, and I respect it on every level, that want a relationship to have a companion and a hearth and a home and something that is more safe. And maybe their work or their friend groups or their athleticism or the books that they read is what pushes them to grow. It's not so much their relationship.
What is like kind of inevitable. I don't know if it can be separated, you know, it's just kind of, in IFS we call our partners, our romantic partners, our tour mentors, because their whole point of being in an intimate relationship is often like to torment those parts of us that we hide away, and that often the only other people that can really bring them up is our family, because that's who created them in the first place, usually, like our little inner children. But our partners have a way of bringing those parts up, but it's also in a safe container, which is different.
It can
right?
be in a safe container.
If you're lucky, yeah. If that's what's going on.
It takes work. Yeah. You know, and it's funny that you bring up family. I mean, my mother has been both someone who has helped me catapult forward because she can see the best in me, or has so much invested in wanting me to experience and develop into the best of me. But she's also been someone who I would, quote, call an enemy on the path, in the sense of like, has at times held me back because of her fears being projected onto me, that why would I do that? Like, why would you go be an entrepreneur and create a yoga studio, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
So it is always interesting that, the same person can be both, and probably often are. Byron Katie's another really big just inspiration for me, her technique and her breadth of self-inquiry. And these are more recent. Joe Dispenza, these people have shown up at the right time with the right messaging. I wouldn't say that absolutely everything that they say has resonated with me as I've dove deeper, but they gave me pebbles on my path that helped me to get to the next one for sure.
Yeah, mentors can be so helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I have so many.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah, there's a lot. I have a lot too. I feel really grateful for that, because it's such a blessing to have somebody in your life that you feel that comfortable with, or that you can look up to in that way and have that glimmer of inspiration.
Yeah, Jess Ewart is another one. I was just so inspired by that woman. She just shows me what's possible. I mean, she literally just picked up and moved herself to Paris. Yeah. Didn't know French at all. Didn't have a job. Didn't have a place to live. And now, a year later, knows French, has an entire community, has a French job, and still is connected and still working with Shakti and Body Alive and all that, which is amazing. But she's a big mentor of mine. I mean, she just has been unafraid to step into the unknown, and I just applaud her.
And also has this like very like motherly energy in this way. She's like very gentle, and I feel like unassuming and non-judgmental
and unapologetic at the same time.
Yeah. Oh, Jess. Yeah.
Yes. I want to mention her just because she does so much work behind the scenes too of my life. I mean, total saint.
And the business. So Aspen Shakti, what is the intention? It's when you were just referring to your mother being like, why would you want to own a yoga studio and create that path for yourself? Why would you want to own a yoga studio? Because I know it's been a journey of it being what it is today. So it's just in the 5 years again that I've seen you so committed to this path of being the studio owner and keeping it open for the community. And just this deep sense of commitment that I've witnessed, how much sacrifice you've put into keeping the space open through the pandemic and all the craziness of Aspen's rental market changing, and just everything that has come as a roadblock, or not a roadblock, but a bump along the way. Why a yoga studio? Why Aspen Shakti? What is the intention there, and why do you feel so called to that path?
Yeah, I mean, that is like the biggest question. That's my biggest ally, this why. And it does change from time to time. I mean, right now I've actually been questioning my why again, just trying to get really acutely activated and electrified by it, and I'm kind of asking some questions again. But why in the past, or how did I get here? I want to live in a world where each of our unique lenses and skills and talents make the soup more flavorful, if that makes sense. And Aspen is a small enough community that I could see I could really see each of our contributions. And I just have a natural personality to lead and to teach that is in me on every cell. And so to create a space initially for the community to come and be safe, to shed their layers, to have a place to constantly be seen in their evolution and their transformation and their metamorphosis, and to not have to be who they were yesterday, and to be celebrated for who they're becoming, and to do that within community. Because really on the opening night of Aspen Shakti, I was like, who you surround yourself by is what becomes normalized. So I want there to be a hub and a nucleus, space where people can come on this journey and be raw and be uncomfortable and be torn apart and be on their game and rocking it and all of it. And I think when a community shares that time and space and journey together, so much intimacy is created, and just the glue and the fabric of what makes it exciting to be human, can come alive. And I was really committed to this. Aspen Shakti is literally in the back corner of a basement. And I knew that, this journey of self-discovery, this journey of not missing a moment isn't always pretty. It's really intense. Fully alive living is fully intense. Full spectrum. It's not pretty all the time. And we have such a glorious space in Aspen, infinite spaces to be mesmerized by the beauty and at hand. I knew that if we're going to be in the back corner of a basement, we have got to make an extraordinary space so that people can be supported with beauty and intentionality along this path and held, that is, I would never be able to live any other way, but it can be like wretched at times and ruthless.
That is a really beautiful space. I love bringing people there for the first time because the response is always like, oh, wow, what a gorgeous really space. Cool. Jayne has made this space like so beautiful with old barnwood and big mirrors with lights and beautiful hardwood floors, and just
thank you.
Everything about it feels very homey and comfortable, but also very like vibrant. And yeah, what's the word of that style where it just feels, it's funny, I feel like there's like two types of yoga studios. There's like your type of yoga studio and then the other one that's like white and and big open space and windows and just like feels very empty almost, and yours almost feels very like full of life and full of crystals and creations, and it's just such a sacred space.
It was also built just with, literally prayers and affirmations. We were the first people in the building, I think you know this, but all kinds of prayers and affirmations behind all the walls. And the people who helped create the space with me literally became artists as they were painting, and just I think that's why it feels so good.
It does. It feels like a sanctuary space. And I like it's a really sacred space and container. And that's, I think, moving into what the Body Alive is, I think that's one of the reasons where I've taken it with you in so many places, and it's always spectacular as a class, but there's something about it being in like this heart cave of Aspen where the container is so different and so much more potent and stronger just from the energy that maybe has been building in that space twice a week for years and years and years. But the Body Alive is a class that's changed my whole life. Little dance, little yoga, a little bit of all the things. So what is the Body Alive? Why would somebody want to take the Body Alive if they're not into dance or yoga? What is the offering and the intention behind the class? Because I've taken it with multiple teachers, and there's no one quite like Jayne out there.
Not yet. Maybe someday soon. We're working on it.
The way that you move your body, the way that you hold the container, the type of music that you choose, everything about it is very special and very just one of those classes. It's just one of those classes. It's like really can't be replicated, and teachers that just cannot be replicated. Yeah. But what about the class drives you to do it twice a week, every week, even when you're unwell or stressed, you still show up fully in that space and hold that container so strongly? Why do you do that, and what about the Body Alive is so driven?
You said it's changed your life. It's changed mine. It's awoken an unapologetic, like liberated state of letting me be who I am in front of people. That, you do see in my eyes and my words when I leave that place, and we see in each other's. It targets the second chakra, just physically, the movement. It targets a lot of the body, but initially it really stirs with Sufi circles and a lot of cat and cow, the energy in the second chakra, the energy of passion and creativity and aliveness and Shakti. And it really works to bring to feed that with prana and then bring that throughout your entire aura, mind, body, spirit. And, more and more I'm thinking of the class and why that space is so important, as it's kind of like a movement as medicine sober ceremony. Plant medicine and ceremonies are so many people who would never be interested in yoga or dance are interested in transformation and healing. And so I'm using yoga and breath and dance and a journey experience and a safe container and the music and like my body as a vessel of how to move, of inspiration of how to move, not how to move, to create a ceremony experience, literally. There's a very intentional warm-up. There's a very intentional rising of the Shakti, of the energy, of the breath, of the prana. There's a very intentional release, shake it out moment. And then there's an integration. And so when you physically get that empowered and that you get out of your head and into your body and you let me and the music and the class lead you, it's an experience of letting life lead you. And it's an experience of stepping into the unknown. That is fun.
Yeah, super fun.
And you win every time. It's true. And you get good at what you practice. So if we practice getting into the unknown and moving our bodies in ways we just never knew how, and listening to music and giving permission to move in ways we don't normally move. It starts to be normalized that the unknown is a place where rich possibility lives.
Love that. And what could one expect at a class? I know it has a lot of roots and all sorts of different types of movement that you've explored on your own path that you've kind of brought as a culmination into this class. What is it for somebody who has no idea what the hell we're talking about? What does a class look like? What type of movement could they expect? What does a class look like?
So first I will say, it really is a class, no matter what your physical limitations are, that you are welcome. And we will find a place within this space for you. But you can expect cardio, no question. You can expect loud music. You can expect my presence to hold you and the room in such a strong way that you won't get lost. But you can still have your own experience, I hope. You can expect African-inspired moves, hip-hop-inspired moves, jazz, yoga. You can expect a whole orchestra of movement, or vocabulary of movement, to help move energy that is stagnant, literally, to help bring breath and movement into places that might be on autopilot or just not getting the prana that they need, to create a liberated, healthy, alive state. So we're bringing the life into the body through music and dance. And there's the room is so dark and nobody's looking. This isn't being out dancing, and it's not a dance class, and it's not an ecstatic dance class. It's an experience that is held and guided, that takes the practitioner through movement to bring breath into the body in all different areas. That's really what it is.
It's the best class ever. I am excited as it has so much momentum. It does have a bit of a cult following in Aspen, and there's a ton of momentum behind it right now. And where can people access it if they're not literally in Aspen, even though I highly recommend taking it in person in the Heart Cave? I know there's all sorts of pop-ups that have been going on, lots of things on the horizon on the virtual world. Where can people access The Body Alive?
Well, we have worked so hard in this virtual world to create an experience that is similar to what is happening in the room. Virtually, I'm really proud. I think we're getting there. The virtual experience is great. However, if you've never been to class, I just encourage people to have an open mind and to get in a space where you have some privacy and you can put on some loud music. It's not going to quite land without the music really loud, but you can find us in Aspen, of course, and on retreats. If you check out, we're always posting our retreat information, and that's really fun because that, while each class has its own hero's journey, the retreat experience is sort of a hero's journey in and of itself. So that's a really great way to get familiar with the work, to just say yes to the unknown. We have a pod course, we call it, that we're working on that is very much like this, but we include some practices at the end to try and help just keep some of these concepts alive.
Yeah.
Because it's really important to me to engage the body and the spirit in addition to the head. And you can always come visit in Aspen, in the Heart Cave, right?
Yeah.
We're here.